Uh, okay. Let's. I just like if anyone has questions about the die bonds, we can like start there. It's like I can clear some up if anyone wants to come on and give their own thoughts. You do that, and then I will have something that I want to talk about after that. But we should do that first. Um, so like look and just if anyone has anything that they're wondering about there, I'll basically give like a little rundown that I think that we should drop sales entirely, have no direct sales either into the pool or how it was designed before, which was like a 1 inch kind of a thing where you could like go to our website and either protocol would sell to you or you would go to the market depending on which one gets you a better price. Um, I just feel like bonds do it better and kind of like defer that new supply entering. And all like the biggest thing for me is the fact that like price data is a pain, and that is what had been holding that back to start. And bonds don't require any price data, market chooses, which I think is a much better dynamic because when we have multiple bond markets all running in parallel, they become like they play off each other. So like the discount will rise on one of them, and that gets bought up. And because demand just went there, then on the other one, or the discount will rise, and then money goes there, and it kind of like I think a good analogy for it is uh like let me see if I can find a good representation, kind of like this, like with volume bars and the way that they like go up and down like that. That's how I see the bond markets working together. Um, each time one of them gets into yellow or the red, then they dip back down into the green and they ebb and they flow and kind of play off the price, but they drive the price and they're driven by the price and vice versa on the price side. And so they kind of like all play into each other. Um, yeah, so I would like to just drop sales entirely, including the light contract. I haven't seen any real pushback to that thus far, so like cool. Um, Yeah, I mean, and we also have it done already. We can push it. Yeah, so if anyone has anything that they would like to ask, or anyone wants to hop on mic and say anything about it, um, I'll just give a moment. All right, I guess is it safe to say that we're good? Should we cut to the chase? Um, okay. I guess not. Uh, okay. So I'm just gonna answer this question that's here. So yeah, so the Treasury has. So this is what I want to talk about. Alternatively, is that in the past 2 weeks, the Treasury. Oh shit. Craig. Okay, that didn't get him in here. There
Now
we go.
recording.
That's new. All right. So in the last 2 weeks, the Treasury has bought over $8 million in liquidity from bonders. Um, that's fucking insane to me. I don't know if that has set in for most people. How much that is now locked in the Treasury. Um, you know, including the DAO holdings, which I put a proposal up to just dump those into the Treasury so that our metrics are more accurate. Um, including that's over $10 million in liquidity owned by the protocol. That is 12% of our market cap is locked liquidity. Um, that's insane to me. Uh, but with that is a cost. We pay for this liquidity, um, and so we pay for it in ohm. It's cheaper to produce. We can make all this extra supply, but we still did give ohm worth like $10 million. Um, and that creates a concern, along with the fact that the reason that we brought in so much was that we didn't change the bond control variable until today, and so the capacity was rising at an exponential basis. Um, and the reason that we want the bonds to stay constrained is that they become an accumulation or like tool when there's not a lot of them out there to buy. So like they just become this thing that like people who are watching because they want to build their stack are going to use them, and maybe it's only a 7% discount or something, but you don't really care because you can like roll it into staking, and like you're just trying to grow your stack for staking. When it's 10-12%, I think it attracts much more people looking for an arbitrage where they will do the bond and then they get their home and then they sell it into the pool and capture the spread. Um, those are the bad people that we don't want. The former are the good ones. When capacity gets too large, those discounts stay too low or too high, I guess. Um, and then you end up, attracting those people in larger and larger forces. So today we raised the bond control variable. Now there's no capacity, at least for the next like 3 days. What I would like to do is basically for now, effectively like shut off the LP bonds. And what that would mean is raising the minimum premium to a point where it it will not make sense to bond until or with liquidity until price is above, let's say, like $1,000. And so as long as we're below that, there will be no LP bonds. That means no extra liquidity going into the treasury, but it also means that we're not paying out any extra home. And I think that we're at a point with liquidity where we should take a breather. We should let the market cool a little bit on that front. We should like come to terms with the what we paid for the liquidity that we already have. um, but it creates a cool dynamic where we kind of supply shock the market in a way, where all these inflationary forces that existed before with the bonds, with both you know building the bond position. If you're doing a single sided ad, that's sell pressure, and then people who get their payout and they sell, that's extra sell pressure. We basically cut that after Wednesday. That no longer exists. uh, the single sided no longer exists as of today, and if we push that premium or minimum premium up, it will not again until we bring that back down or price comes up. Um, and then with what has been paid out by Wednesday, all of that will be paid out. Um, and then this largest inflationary force is now absent from the market. Um, add to that, well, one, we can use the DAI bonds to basically supplement the supply growth, where we still produce the exact same amount of supply, but we only pay 3% of what we were before for it. So we don't have to worry about the supply. I think that cutting it from 100% to 3%, effectively the same as cutting it from 100 to 0. Um, but it creates a cool dynamic where now staking is or deflationary. So if you're staked, your network share from starting this is growing, um, because there is now a good amount of supply that is like just locked in the pool, and so we start to dilute that. Um, that's a cool dynamic, in my opinion. Basically, like the trade offs here are, in exchange for less inflation, less spending, we sacrifice some accumulation of liquidity. But other than that, that's kind of it. Um, and I feel like we are in a position now where we can afford to do so. Like basically, if we were to take in with bonds, like we allowed to take 5% of what we took in with LP this week, we would have enough runway for 5 months. Which is, that's pretty much the goal, is like, get to like 6 months, then we don't really need to care. So we could even accompany this with an increase in APY. Um, we dubbed it before. Oh shit. Okay, I guess APY already went up. It's like 240,000%. What the hell? Um, we let's see if the name works. But I would like to name this FOMO. and kind of have a week of FOMO. It is looking like it's going to win. Where we're going to do an event next week that should be cool, and hush hush on what it is, but and then higher APYs, no LP bond dilution or inflation, same supply accumulation but much lower cost. Yeah, cool event. I don't know. So that's my whole spiel on what I'm thinking about right now. I don't know what channel I should look into. I don't know if anyone has like any comments, any questions, any concerns, any how much capacity do you plan for the die bond and how will increase the runway? So right now, so it hits par with price when the debt ratio is around 26% right now. That's with 100% or 100 BCV. So now it's 150, which means that the debt ratio has to be like 17% for par with the price. But so when we started the die bonds, supply was around 70,000, and so that 26% debt ratio meant that in total like 17,000 ohm were created or something. Now total supply is like 450,000. So that equals 100,000, 120,000 supply. So that has increased massively, and it definitely needed to be corrected back down. Basically, I saw that we got two big bonders in earlier, and I've been thinking about this for a couple days, and it seemed like the right time to do it. I mean, it really comes down to, for me, like, how much liquidity do you think that we really need to have protocol locked within the first month? Like $10 million worth is a fuck ton, in my opinion. I think that we can focus on other things now because that's more setting the stage than it is the main goal. As far as I see it, like I'm open to pushback on that, but I do think that like the main objective here is not like accumulate as much liquidity as possible. It's that is a part of what we're trying to do, and now we've like accomplished that to a pretty good degree. Not a long-term degree, but for right now, a good degree. But they increase the runway a lot slower than the die bonds do. So for every dollar that we take in with a die bond, we get 30x more ohm out of it. So if we look at it from a supply production standpoint, the die bonds are literally 30 times more efficient. Is there any thoughts here? Yeah, so the vote for the other one starts on Saturday. I was thinking a forum post tomorrow and then like have it like a day offset, although maybe I should just have them all up for vote at once. Just for convenience for people so that you don't have to go vote more than one time. You can just do it all in one. Yeah, that makes sense. Here, wait, with some emojis, gauge gauging sentiment. I mean, with some emojis that just like so I can kind of read the room a little in questions. Okay, I'll do the sales slide too. Okay, looking positive so far. So I don't really see any drawbacks to removing the sales light. Like, basically, if we want to make sure that we're still producing the same amount of supply as like after removing it, we can just make the capacity for the die bonds a little higher. Other than that, there's literally no drawback that I can see. And Yeah, Jolly, you can talk in 1 sec. I don't see any drawbacks, and I see a lot of positives. And kind of it's the same effect, but the way that it is implemented is better. Um, and mainly not selling directly into the pool and the time vesting on the position. Yeah, Jolly, you can talk. You should be able to unmute yourself and just go for it. I don't think you need push to talk. You should be able to just unmute. Yeah. I don't know. I don't have too much to like. This is kind of impromptu, so like questions, concerns, whatever. Here, I'm gonna try to turn off push to talk. Okay. Try that now. Oh, here we go. You got someone.
Yeah,
We
I
gotta
got it
mute.
now.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I
Thank you
thought
very
you guys
much.
could talk.
Yeah, thank you. Two questions. First question, like I understand that liquidity, totally understand liquidity is a means to an end, right? It's not our end goal to accumulate 100 million in liquidity. But if the goal is to be a 1 billion, 2 billion, $3 billion market cap, hopefully more, right? Like what do you see as an appropriate level of liquidity as we move forward, and how do you think about scaling that up? Right, like now I think it's fine to put the BCB up, but like at what point do you bring that back down to incentivize liquidity? And second question would be, this is more of like a strategy alpha question, but as the bonds roll off 5 days from now, do you foresee there being like similar opportunities to bond, even if the capacity is lower? Right, it's like, do you think a similar dynamic developing with smaller capacity?
I would expect most of it to just end up in the market. It depends on how much capacity we open for the DAI bonds, but I think that we should definitely lower the rate that bonds are producing supply. Like that is for sure to me. Just because they increased on an exponential basis and we just didn't touch them. So it started conservative, it got to reasonable, and then before, like earlier today, it was reaching the point of just too high. In terms of what the end goal there ends up, I would say hundreds of millions in liquidity is definitely the goal. It's just that we don't have to get on our current rate, we would get there in 3 weeks. That's just too fast of a rate to be trying and accumulating at. Like same with billions in market cap. I would like to get there, but we don't have to do it in a month. You know, facts. I'll get to yeah. Does that answer that? I would like to hold at least five at a minimum, and 10% is good. Market cap to liquidity. That seems like a pretty good ratio to me. Especially if that's all protocol owned. So I think it's absolutely insane that we have 10%, 12% of our market cap is realized in treasury owned liquidity. Okay. Which metrics do we point to as the reason for this policy change that can be used as future precedent? I am mainly looking at the amount of supply in the bond depository, and that has been paid out of the bond depository relative to current circulating supply, which has grown at just like the bonds at an exponential basis. And now it's hitting a point where it's just too high. So with that we have accumulated 400,000 ohm in staking rewards and $10 million in liquidity. That's what we've gotten for, I think, in total 8 or 9,000 ohm. I think 9 have been paid to bonders. So they've been paid pretty handsomely, but like we've come away with a lot for it. Um, like I just think that we kind of need to do a balancing act of we have times when we're accumulating and saving, and then times when we kind of treat ourselves. Um, and this would kind of be that time. So what are you and the team focused on as the next phase of the protocol and development? So we're doing a whole website overhaul right now, trying to get a lot more information on there and just make it easier to use. I like the UI of our website a lot, just like how it looks, but in terms of like information and like usage, it definitely leaves something to be desired. Um, so we will that's one of the things that we're on the front end side. On the back end, we are cleaning up for audit for the V2. We're going to put new treasury in that will facilitate like the inverse bonds, which will be the buyback equivalent of current bonds, and then will facilitate the like 3 plus staking, which I will explain more in depth when it's more relevant. But that one, like, I think will kind of change the whole game. Um, yeah, I leaked a fuck ton of alpha on that, but like it's still like maybe half of it. Um, that one is cool.
Wasn't paying attention there.
I don't know, maybe 2/3. Like there's a couple extra pieces there that should be cool. And then when we do that, I see that as pretty much a completed system for the most part. One of like one of the only big ones that I think should be done after that would be the index backing, but I also don't think that that should be done yet. I think that we need to get our governance into a mature state before thinking about really like adding coins. Otherwise, it's going to get to a state, you know, a couple months down the road where we're just gambling with the treasury, and using it for short-term purposes, which is not the goal there. And it's easy to fall into that trap, and I can definitely see it happening, and I just don't really want that. It's easier to just have, oh, we have USD coins in the treasury, and that's just kind of it. What's another one? Yeah, there's like 2, 3 other things that were part of the initial long-term design, but they're much more focused on lower premiums. So for now, they're kind of off the list. It will become, I think, past V2. Main focus will be on integrating assets, getting ourselves integrated onto other protocols. Kind of like I see it as that, or at that point, the system is done. The system can do what it does, and they can do it with relatively low intervention. And then it's just a matter of getting it ported into the rest of the industry. So kind of build it and then take it elsewhere rather than try to do them simultaneously. But I think that's like kind of the more fun part as well. Actually getting to like interact with other communities and like get excited about, oh, this thing is coming, and those are, they don't change your understanding of the system, they don't change how you play, they just give you new options. So that would fall into when Rari integration soon, hopefully. Definitely with the V2. um what's it called? But with the fuse pool, I'm gonna put up a forum post about that and how we should approach that. I do think that we should probably start with shorts turned off, um, and make it more of just an option to borrow against than to uh, borrow it. Um, I'm gonna wait until the other votes are done before introducing that, just so we can kind of keep the conversation on topic, with short term things. Just because that's slightly less pressing. And I also am sorry for the multiple governance things all at once. We finally got all these pieces in place, and now like there's just a couple things that we're trying to do relatively soon. Yeah. So yeah, levered ohm is gonna be wild. Ooh, stop giving away the alpha, Jay. BVZD, I can't say what it says or means because I'm gonna get canceled. I've already seen it happen. The words do not have Zeus, and they have nothing to do with Olympus, though. It's just a meme. Is the die bond audited? No, but the other one is, and it's the same code. It just uses die instead. It actually is like simpler, because it doesn't have to value the LP share. It just uses 1-to-1 with die as its value. How does the bond price become more expensive than the market price? When there's more bonds, the price gets higher. When there's less bonds, the price gets lower. It's kind of simple. More buyers, higher price. Less buyers, lower price. And then there's a floor. Just especially for when we launch it, because when we launch it, the debt ratio is 0, and so that would give the buyer the option at par value, and we don't really want people buying at $1. I would say I feel like that's kind of a safe statement to make. Anyone else want to come up and talk? I hear someone quietly.
Hope I can speak my piece.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so I know in full anticipation that the dollar is getting ready to hyperinflate into oblivion, and I'm looking forward to the day. I am leveraging all the loans possible to grow my business as fast as possible. And then when the dollar goes boop, boop, I'm going to go, here you go, bank. Here's all your money back. Tee hee.
So should we take out USD denominated loans?
Absolutely. Take out USD denominated
Yes.
loans. Get good debt, not bad debt. Don't be fucking reckless with it. Good debt, USD denominated loans, and start a business, grow a business, buy assets like fucking cars, good cars, right? That'll hold their value, or, really houses, real estate, or just crypto, man. Fuck it. I mean, what do you think is more stable moving into the future? Cryptocurrencies like Monero and Bitcoin, or the US dollar that like is being splooged out 18 times more supply than has ever existed in like since the history of ever in the last year alone?
I'm going to be honest. I still think the dollar. I think that there is going to be inflation, but I don't think that it's going to be the degree that is expected or like believed by, especially like the Bitcoin community. Like, it's going to flow into assets, and assets will appreciate. I believe that, but it seems too entrenched in the world, especially in DeFi. Crypto is not insulated from the dollar in the least. So if the dollar goes down, we still all go down. I don't think there's anywhere to really hide.
Well, I mean,
you want to transition away from it, but I think that like we're actually fucked if we hyperinflate.
well, I mean, so if you really want to hedge against inflation, real estate that you can actively use. Like, so if you have a business like me, I'm in a very special situation with a growing business. I'm taking out all the leveraged loans possible to get these massive fucking factories and these commercial buildings. Because when the dollar hyperinflates, like, oh, and here's the thing, if the dollar doesn't hyperinflate, I have a growing business. Who cares?
Well, what if your business doesn't grow faster than inflation?
Yeah, right.
What do you mean?
Then your interest payments. Then you got a lot of debt and nothing to pay off with.
No, I have fixed interest earnings.
Okay. All right. I don't know.
Wouldn't
Definitely
the
a tricky
hyperinflation
topic, like-
to some degree depend on the dollar losing its like reserve currency status?
I would
I
say
mean,
so.
as
I mean,
long,
a big factor why the U.S.
I mean,
dollar
the
is so
dollar is still the denominator for the oil, right?
oil. So
As
yeah,
long as that's the case, I don't see like that kind
well,
of hyperinflation. You
funny
might
you
be
mentioned that. I am
higher
hedging
degrees,
against the
but
dollar because the petrodollar is very tenuous at best, and I'll tell you why. There are
Here, wait.
various
I'm
technologies.
gonna reclaim the room. We can hop back onto this because I dig the conversation, but this probably isn't the time for it. So we can revisit this after when we like formally close off. For now, anyone else have comment, question? Yeah, I guess like I don't know. I don't have too much to talk about, but I'm feeling good about everything. Like that's for sure. Like the past what we launched bonds 2 weeks ago. Like this has blown me away, and I don't see anyone talking about it in here. And it's like it's literally just humming along so much, man. Like I don't know, few.
few indeed.
Yeah. Okay. I think we can call it because there's not too much to go over other than this. This was just a little impromptu for fun and to pose that, and I'll now it's been introduced. I'll put a forum post up, and then we can take a vote on it. But I think that would be a good thing to do. The whole I think especially with dubbing it FOMO, just because that's so funny. And like, oh, this is one more thing I wanted to say. Like, if you look at our like price action, I feel like we have already demonstrated that the bonds work. We trade as a stable coin. Like for the past week, we've been in the exact same range, which is awesome. It's incredible. I do think that we like kind of need to release some energy, just because we're getting real pent up in this spot. So like I think that doing that on our own terms and like just having a little like fun with it, would be a good thing. But like I that has been the best thing for me is at least like just seeing like the whole goal with the bonds, especially with the liquidity side of it, is to suppress volatility. Um, to constantly be thickening the liquidity and to be suppressing like rises in price because anytime the price spikes up, someone's going to roll into a new bond, bring it back down, but with thicker liquidity. Like it seems to work, like a week or 2 weeks is not really the best case study, but you can look at like the volatility of the market, pre-bonds, post-bonds, and it very quickly and at an exponential rate has decreased. So yeah, I'm feeling super good about that. I guess that's my last thing. Yeah. So thanks for coming, guys. Any last things? Speak your piece.
What alpha did I miss?
I don't think too much. I'm gonna write up a forum post about like I'm trying to basically. I would like us to turn off like LP bonds pretty much like completely for a week or two, because like we're basically paying not for supply but for liquidity right now, and I think that liquidity has reached a point where we can cool it on that front for a little bit. Let the market kind of sift through what now exists. We can make staking or deflationary, some good dynamics that like are not really sustainable in a longer term setting, but definitely are in a shorter term setting, and like kind of would have negligible impact, I think, and would do a lot just for sentiment and for like I don't know, like I rail against number go up on the price chart. I don't really have an issue with it. What I do have an issue with is uncontrolled, kind of undisciplined pumping. That's what I don't like. But I'm completely okay with like I feel like the market has demonstrated an ability to hold this range, and that might justify moving the range up. That's going to be up to the market to choose, but like as long as things are controlled, the market can do whatever it wants. That's the whole point here, is that we try to diminish volatility and we let the market choose what the price is. So right now it's chosen like $800, but who knows what that's going to be in a month or like a year. But the longer we go on, the harder and harder it should get to move that price. Yeah, that's kind of the big piece there. Yep.
That's so
So
exciting, man. The DAI bonds sounds extremely exciting to me. Being able to get more of the reserve liquidity into the system easier, makes it cheaper for us, more efficient.
yeah, no, it's so much more efficient. It's crazy. Yeah, we can literally just use like a negligible amount of money for the same effect on the supply side, which I think makes it a really good thing to have started with. Because we've now conditioned ourselves to like, oh, it's so hard to produce supply, and I'm just like, nope. It's just that we've been making it way harder on ourselves because we want liquidity.
So how do you prevent these spikes as interest for the project grows?
So if we bring the LP bonds back in a larger fashion, they will likely do the same thing that they've been doing right now, which is pushing down price rises and matching them with new liquidity. And actually, if we were to have held the capacity for the LP bonds like static, or what I want to do, what the DAI bonds contract does, and what I want to do with the like when we replace the LP bonds is tie it to circulating supply instead of total supply. And that would mean that it would scale with circ instead of like on an exponential basis with total. If we had been like that from the start, the price would definitely be like far higher than it is right now. I feel like I could say that with like relative certainty because like the price pushes keep getting stronger almost, but the bonds are just able to like bring it back down. All right, I'm gonna stop talking though, and that this is getting a little too price oriented, which I've been trying to steer away from. Yeah, so I talked about the mechanics. Y'all can
Yeah, that's
extrapolate
a
the
good.
market side.
Oh, it's a solid answer. It was the mechanic I wanted to get to rather than the price itself.
Did I address it?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, cool.